Our read aloud story today is Forest Fair, Studying Food Webs in the Forest by Judy Lundgren. And this is a book also that is available on Epic if you would like to read it on your own later on. I chose this book because many of our animals are actually insects, are forest insects. So I was interested to see what connections we can see with our own bugs as we read this. Strands in a web. All life needs sunlight, water, air, and food. Green plants change light from the sun into food energy through photosynthesis. Plants use the food to live and grow. When an animal eats the plant, the energy passes to the animal and passes again when the animal is eaten. This energy pathway from one living thing to another is a food chain. Since organisms are part of many food chains, all the food connections in an area compose a food web. So all of the connections in a habitat or in an ecosystem are considered a food web. Natural forest networks. An area's plants and animals and the ways they interact with each other in the land defined as ecosystems. Climate and the availability of resources like food and water determine the kinds and numbers of species. Forests grow in many climates. Tropical forests are warm and moist all year. Leafy or deciduous trees handle seasonal temperature changes in temperate forests. Temperate forests grow between equatorial rainforests and the northern boreal forests. Boreal forests are without frost, only 50 to 100 days each year. Forest Fair, green machines. Forest plants and the primary producers generate food from sunlight. They use carbon dioxide and give off oxygen for animals and people to breathe. Plants provide the food web foundation in their leaves, stems, barks, roots, seeds, flowers, and fruit. Forests are structured in layers. The top layer, or the canopy, receives the most sunlight and wind. The next layer down is the understory, where bushes and young trees grow in dappled light. Dappled, that means dim light. The still forest floor shelters plants with the ability to grow in shade. In the tropics, a fourth layer, the emergent layer, pokes up taller than the canopy. Emergent trees serve as watchtowers and restaurants for eagles, monkeys, and butterflies. That means they get their food there. In tropical forests, vines seeking sunlight snake up trees. Bromeliads collect water in their leafy centers. Tree frogs and insects lay eggs in these miniature aquariums. You see it right here in the picture? The dark forest floor and the poor soil defeat most seedlings. Instead, plants sprout in sunny tree branches. The moist air and frequent rains supply needed water. Deciduous trees like maples, oaks, birch, and basswood dominate temperate forests. Temperate forests grow in areas with seasonal changes in daylight and temperature. These changes cause the trees to lose their leaves and go into a time of dormancy during the coldest, darkest days of the year, kind of like our environment. That's our ecosystem right there. Animals living here must have adaptations to the lack of fresh green food during the winter. Fantasy forests. In rare ancient temperate rainforests in the western United States, daring biologists climbed the world's tallest living trees and found a forest in miniature. In the branches, crevices, and hollows of each massive treetop, soil collected over thousands of years. Huckleberry bushes, small trees, lichens, ferns, insects, lizards, and birds form an ecosystem in the air. And here's fungi that's soaking up water and nutrients and algae, and they join to form lichen. It's growing right on the tree. Animal menus. Plant eaters or herbivores are primary consumers. That means the first consumers of plant life. The first animals in the food chain. Animals have adaptations for eating plants. Rodents, incisors or front teeth grow continuously. With each bite of tough stems and seeds, the top teeth rub past the bottom teeth, sharpening them like razors. Herbivores help plants too. As animals browse, seeds latch onto their fur. Later, the seeds fall onto new ground. Fruit eaters also spread plant seeds in their waste. Carnivores eat other animals. Those who eat primary consumers are called secondary consumers. And these right here are most of our insects. Ours are primary consumers. With excellent vision and webbed feet, South American bush dogs fish from riverbanks by submerging their heads, putting them underwater. Top predators amaze with their stealth and power. Harpy eagles wing through the canopy to pick up unwary monkeys, sloths, and snakes. Jaguars' jaws crush the skull of their prey. Omnivores, like orangutans, consume both animals and plants. Temperate forest secondary consumers include shrews, bats, weasels, and hawks. Swift, adaptable coyotes relish fruits and berries, frogs, insects, and plants, in addition to rabbits, small rodents, and birds. Like others in the dog family, coyotes feed on carrion too. Other omnivores, like raccoons, foxes, and black bears, sometimes raid dog food, bird feeders, small livestock, and garbage if they live near people. Power lunch. Food webs show the energy flow from one organism to another. At every step in the food chain, living things store incoming energy in their growing bodies. As one thing eats another and energy moves up the chain, the food chain, it shrinks. Why? Not all the energy is stored. Animals and plants spend some energy performing daily activities. Animals only pass on the energy stored as body weight. This decreasing energy flow means ecosystems can support many plants, some herbivores, and only a few top predators. Studying food webs. How do scientists learn about food webs? Good eyes and patience. Watching plants and animals is simplest. To observe canopy activity, field workers have used construction cranes, rope bridges, and ladders, and even blimps to rise above the ground. And here you see one way that they have created a ladder, a rope bridge to connect from one side of the canopy to the other. Cleanup time. In nature, nothing goes to waste. Not fallen leaves, old logs, or leftovers from a kill. Scavengers come by first for an easy meal. Then decomposers break down the forest litter into nutrients plants can use again. Fungi, bacteria, and algae all play a part in forest housekeeping. Microscopic bacteria decompose animal waste and carrion. Decomposition occurs quickest when it's warm and damp, wet. Out of balance. A growing world population demands more food, more fuel, more lumber, and more mining products. Forest sections are being sold off from the whole for development or harvest to build homes and to also make farm space. Fragmentation of large stretches of undeveloped forest land threatens animals of the inner forest. Animals sensitive to human activity may die off or move away when faced with noise, traffic, and lights. kind of like humans too. Some people have moved to the suburbs because they don't like the busyness and noise of the city. The same thing happens with animals. Deforestation, the removal of trees from an area, can have effects that last a long time. Tropical rainforests hold their nutrients in their plants and animals, not the soil. Crops planted on cleared land exhaust the thin topsoil in just a few years. Rainforests rarely grow again on abandoned farmland. Deforestation affects boreal and temperate forests too. Young forests differ from forests that have been growing and developing over centuries. Some animals and plants appear only in a mature forest, a forest that's been there for a long time. Ecologists struggle to understand the relationship and inhabitants of ancient forests before they disappear. And they're only looking for clues. And then they're talking about the Earth's fever, which is not really the Earth being sick, but rather the temperatures rising. And I just saw in the news today that we've had the highest temperatures, that we've recorded the highest temperatures in January, February, and March of this year. So as much as the Earth's temperature increases, the more damage we are doing to the ecosystems in our environment. And I'll stop there. You can keep browsing through this book to read about the effects that humans are having on the ecosystems and how we're changing them, not for the better, but for the worse.